9th of May 2023. In this news flash, I'm going to talk about Wagner PMC. For those of us that are following the war in the Ukraine, the Wagner military group is well known, especially for their fighting in Bakhmut. Now, a few days ago, Briekmerke, and he's the guy that is basically in charge of Wagner, made a video that was shocking. And he let rip on the Russian military command about the fact that Wagner was not getting enough ammunition. And he said a lot of other things, and he showed images of the dead Wagner soldiers, and he blamed the Russian command for it because he said the lack of ammunition has contributed to the killing of those soldiers. And he created a hell of a stir. And as could be expected, there was a massive response on the social media, and it was all over the place. But right from the word go, I had the suspicion that there was something more behind Briekmerke. He has become known for making absolutely, sometimes, stunning statements and some of his videos, but he was also the guy that gave daily updates of exactly what is going on in Bakhmut, far more detailed and with more information than the Russian MOD did. And it is a well-known fact that Briekmerke has got a good relationship with Putin, and it's also a well-known fact that he doesn't like Shoigu much. Now, just a little bit of background. Last year, when that General Surovikin was brought in, there was a lot of stories about him taking command of the Donbass troops and the whole situation in the Donbass. But his main mission was to stabilize the front line. At that stage, the front line stretched over around about 1,400 kilometers. That is a hell of a front. And here and there, everywhere, were fighting and so forth, but things were not looking stable. And he made two main decisions. One was to pull the Russians back from Kharkiv, for which there was a more of a lot of things on social media, and a lot of statements were made by the Ukrainians, and they were taking back so much territory and fuck knows what. And then there was all the stories about all the Russian equipment that they supposedly collected because the Russians were fleeing, which all turned out to be bullshit. One of his most controversial decisions was to pull the Russian troops out of Kherson city. And there was a lot of critical guys about that shot him down about that and so, but his mission was to make sure that 30,000 Russian troops is not trapped on the wrong side of the Dnieper River. Today, months later, everybody agrees that it was a good move from him. While he was doing all of this, the freshly called up Russian troops were going through their training and being prepared for the front line and so forth. And my Nazi stalker, he liked to give me messages about the fact that Wagner is a lot of ex-convicts, and Briekmerke is a drunk, and all of those things like that. And I just looked at many of his statements and laughed, but he's clearly uninformed. But the fact of the matter is, while the Russian troops are being prepared for battle, the front line was stabilized and the fighting was focused and concentrated on Bakhmut. Now, a lot of people wanted to know why the hell does it take so long for the Russians to take Bakhmut. if you look at the maps and you look at what happened there, you can see that was again most probably a Surovikin plan. The Bakhmut was not encircled by Russian troops, only on 3 sides, so it was almost like a funnel. And Zelensky made a lot of PR mileage out of how bravely the Ukrainians are resisting the Russians in Bakhmut. The reality is that Bakhmut was turned into a fortress over the past 8 years by the Ukrainian troops, and then there is a hell of a lot of mines under and tunnels under Bakhmut. We have seen videos of some of these tunnels that is now under Russian control, and there are stacks and stacks of military equipment dating back to the Soviet era. But that leave that aside. After this controversial video that Wagner Prigozhin made, he also came out with a second statement in which he said he was going to pull the Wagner troops out of Bakhmut on the 10th of May. That is tomorrow. Now, obviously, a lot of the more senior Russian politicians and military guys took serious note of what Prigozhin was saying, because it was one thing that they could not dispute is the fact that Wagner was being starved on ammunition. So, 2 days ago, we got the messages that Wagner will be falling directly under Surovikin. And many commentators says that that is an excellent idea, because Surovikin and Prigozhin has got very similar personalities. And I have read now a few articles that covered things that Surovikin said, and I think that and I have an idea that Putin stepped in here. So Wagner is not going to pull out of Bakhmut, not from what I am reading. And the other thing is this: nobody can deny the ability of the Wagner group. And I'm going to show you this statement. The combat capability of PMC Wagner is much higher than most armies in European countries. Given their unprecedented combat experience, it can be stated that this is a very dangerous force, and we must understand this. And that's from the French Admiral, Chief of the General Staff of the French Armed Forces, Edouard Guyot. And this is quite contrary to what my Nazi stalker claims about the abilities of Wagner. Now here is a photograph of Prigozhin and Surovikin. And these two guys, be what it may, they are very serious about that fighting in the Donbass. And here is a statement from Surovikin. Surovikin Sergei Vladimirovich, who was appointed as link between PMC Wagner and the Ministry of Defense, commented on the situation. From the very beginning of the SVO, I was in contact with Yevgeny Prigozhin and shared my opinion on some military operations. From the very beginning, in the ministry, I spoke out against limiting the supply of weapons to them. I was limited as much as they could. But now I have achieved this, achieved a concrete decision that will move our front from its place. Yes, it cost a lot for me, but fortunately the train started moving. Shells are already being shipped and their production is increasing. In the near future, a regrouping of some units will be appointed and a blockade of the remaining nationalists in Bakhmut will be organized. Victory will be ours. Now, take note of what Surovikin says. And then there's another thing that we have to keep in mind. And that is that part of Prigozhin's video statement was that Bakhmut will be evacuated by Wagner forces. But at the same time, he also got support from the Chechens. And between him and the Chechen commander, they were busy arranging for the Chechens to take over the Wagner positions. Now, I personally believe that that was a psyops, because they lured the Ukrainians into Bakhmut again. Part of the so-called withdrawal of Wagner and the move-in of the Bakhmut forces was a bluff, while the Ukrainians were seeing it as a rotation of the troops. What actually happened is the Bakhmut forces moved in and Wagner did not move out. So there's a heavy force in there. And the Ukrainians tried a counteroffensive and they were absolutely demolished. So I just thought that I want to do this because I haven't spoken about this Wagner issue at all in any of my Skidmarks, because there was too much uncertainty for me and I wasn't comfortable with the things that I was reading. Today I can say that it would appear now that the whole situation between Wagner and the Russian command has been resolved, and we will see what Wagner does there. Take note and remember what that French general said. And on that note, please give me a like and a subscribe and share the thing. Thank you for your support.